Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, here to break down another epic weekend in the NFL. First things first, if you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please rate us 5 stars. Or leave us a review where you think we could improve, and I don't know, but probably still 5 stars anyway. And subscribe, youtube.com/ESVN show, put on push notifications. Hello to my co-host and producer, Bradley Alsop.
Hey, sorry, I was just throwing my Dak jersey in the trash.
Oh, yeah.
And I missed, and I forgot. I didn't have enough timeouts, and I threw a challenge for it instead. Oh, crap.
Oh, damn it! Right? What? That was very. You embodied the spirit of the Cowboys with that throw.
Grievance.
Did it get intercepted on the way to the trash can?
It did. My fiance intercepted it.
Go 49ers, by the way. For the rest of, I mean, sorry, I'm biased. I want the Eagles to lose, but I'm a 49ers fan, or I was one yesterday, and I will be until the next week is over.
Me too, and it's not because of my financial obligation to them.
Well, why don't you, in the interest of full transparency, why don't you reveal your futures bet to the audience?
I have plus 800 on them for the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl.
Did I tell you I have plus 800 on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, we could have I hope we have an AFC NFC matchup of our wagers.
That would be pretty
so
epic, right? If both Bradley and I have money right, I mean, I put $20 down, but it would win $100. Not bad. I had a pretty good weekend overall on my little DraftKings account, because a lot of things went the way that they were expected to go.
Well, by some, right?
I did think that the Giants would keep it close, and that's not what happened whatsoever.
Well, I mean, of course, we can figure out, we can decide where to start. But I think the big thing that I was taking away from my comments from last week, last Thursday, was that a lot of like my thinking about this game was kind of contingent upon like how healthy Jalen Hurts would look, and boy did that Eagles team look healthy.
Well, let's start there then, just because we've stumbled upon the topic. And I will say, we will be taking your calls today a little bit later in the show. The phone lines are currently open, but the voicemail's on. Let you guys know.
We'll open the floodgates.
Probably like an hour in, we'll take some calls. So, and we'll read your IMs for sure. The number is 646-257-3920, but not quite yet. Soon. Let's start and get it out of the way. Rip off that damn Band-Aid about the Eagles getting trounced. And of course...
Giants getting trounced.
Oh, wishful thinking. The Giants got trounced by the Eagles. And yet again, Boston Scott, Giants killer, Giants slayer, has to have a touchdown. I mean, essentially...
That's actually insane.
When Sirianni put Boston Scott in for that just shiv to the throat of the Giants... to get that touchdown, they were really close to the goal line. It was a troll job. I mean,
sure.
Nick Sirianni, did you see him taunting the audience like, yeah?
He knows. He's got like that pro wrestler in him, I think, a little bit.
I think he's got frat boy douchebag in him, is what I would call it. I think he's a future employee of Barstool Sports, but unfortunately, he's a good coach.
Well, and also, I guess the ref was like, "You can't be over there," and he was like, "I know what the fuck I'm doing. I could be over there."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a little petulant. I mean, he's a little pugilistic. He's kind of a abrasive kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, but it fits
it's the mindset, right?
It fits for Philly, right?
Exactly. It's the culture building there.
As soon as that game started and the Eagles just drove down the field, that was a bad sign. But then they punted it, or the Giants got the ball, and they actually were moving the ball pretty well. And the point that I think the game was lost, honestly, was when they went for it on 4th and 8.
I was gonna ask, like, I think
not that they would have won at all. I mean, they were completely outmatched from a talent perspective. Coaching can only do so much. Anyway. Go on.
No. I was curious what you thought of that, because I saw the I think it was the SB Nation Giants account. They were live tweeting the game, and basically they thought it was like not that indefensible, only because they were like, we're massive underdogs. Like, we have to take the chance.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I think I would understand that line of thinking if it was A, later in the game and the score was more out of hand, and B, the down and distance was slightly less.
Not 8 yards.
If it was 4th and 3, or if it was 4th and 2, I would understand. But also, I would also understand if it was something along the lines of, oh, Dable has a specific kind of like gadget or trick play for a type of situation like this, and it didn't seem like anything really developed once the ball was snapped also.
Exactly. I mean, I like I like being aggressive, but this was one of the rare aggressive moments from Brian Daboll that I did not like.
Right.
It seemed more desperate than aggressive.
Yes, right. And I think there is a difference, right? There is a difference when you feel like
Yes.
you need to do something or are doing it to kind of like change the pace or momentum.
And that's when the game was lost,
Right, I agree.
because the Giants just have such a huge talent gap. I mean, let's go through it. Offensive line, Eagles. Receivers, Eagles. Running backs. Oh, well, the stable of running backs, you would go with the Eagles. But I mean, Matt Breida actually had a decent game. But I guess Saquon. Quarterback, probably the Eagles, even though Jalen Hurts only had like 154 yards passing, so it really was not. The run game won that game.
The way this game was won was just by the Eagles basically spamming their run game, their short chunky run game as like a blunt force instrument against the Giants linebackers.
That's the thing, is the
They
Giants
were like Nick
linebackers
McLeod, Jalen. Yeah, they were like Nick McLeod, Jalen Smith. Like, we're gonna torture you until this game is over.
There's a reason that Jalen Smith was kind of an off the street signing to a degree. The Giants have huge holes at wide receiver and at linebacker in particular, and they're also thin on their defensive line. When Dexter Lawrence wasn't in the game, it was just like automatic. They're going to get 8 yards, 10 yards on this run play. And Dexter Lawrence can't play. The amount of snaps that he plays is completely unsustainable. They need more depth. I mean,
Totally.
this is an issue
like
with Gettleman and what the roster that he created.
In a perfect world, the guy of like Dexter Lawrence's size and build like wouldn't be out there for like 60% of the snaps, because there would be enough depth to like to complement him in terms of what he can do stopping the run. But they just don't have that luxury, and he is just truly probably their best guy in the front seven, in my opinion. And the fact that the edge rush, while obviously Thibodeau has come on strong in the last few weeks, it's only just been a little bit more intimidating. They kind of, I think, need a serious edge threat to give Lawrence a little bit more time to breathe.
Yes.
And that was clear with how they were running the ball at will. And the Eagles just, I think the thing I find so interesting about the Eagles relative to the Niners is that they don't really necessarily need to they don't think they need to vary anything. And at this point, they're being proven right, because I think their attitude is essentially, we'll exploit a weakness until we have some sort of proof that weakness can no longer be exploited. Exactly.
I mean, they saw the run game was working. They knew that if they got Miles Sanders in particular outside, it was outside runs as opposed to going in the interior or avoiding Dexter Lawrence. And like, this is why the Vikings made a lot of mistakes in not sticking with the run.
Right.
Because if you are creative and get the guys to the outside, to the boundary, you're able to exploit that weakness with the Giants linebackers.
And the Eagles' offensive line was just simply mauling them.
Well, but back to Thibodeau, I mean, Lane Johnson shut him down.
That's the thing, is that, and especially with like short yardage stuff too, it was just like they were like bulldozers like moving cement. Like they were just literally pushing forward with very little resistance.
It was obvious good coaching can only do so much, right? And the Giants, there was a reason that they were picked to be a bottom 5, bottom 10 team in the NFL this year because of the state of the roster. And they're just not built to come from behind. I mean, Daniel Jones didn't play great, but at a certain point, it's like, I don't know. I don't put that loss on him. I don't really put that loss on anybody except for Dave Gettleman and the roster that he had created.
I mean, the one thing I was saying, it's like, of course, it was like a pretty, the Eagles won handily, but I don't think that's necessarily a surprise. given how healthy Hurts looked and how complete this team is. And it was even complete before Hurts was a little dinged up, and especially now that he's looking healthier and Lane Johnson is playing. He's back at right guard, right tackle.
Sorry?
Right is
For Lane Johnson?
Is he right tackle?
He's right tackle.
Right tackle. Sorry, back at right tackle. So with all that being said, I mean, the Giants coming into this season with no prospects necessarily of even being a competitive team, let alone a playoff team, let alone a team that won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Getting into this situation, I don't think there's really anything super, I would say super, I don't think there's any real takeaway that's super pessimistic for this team, especially given how much they've spent on this roster and how much money they can look to get out from under after some of these Gettleman contracts either get restructured or taken completely off the books.
Galladay.
So Galladay, Leonard Williams, if they can restructure that so he's not receiving $35 million next year. Like, if there's a lot for the long-term and short-term future for this team to figure out, and I think it's really just gravy the fact that they were able to play this well given the constrictions of their roster and win a playoff game. I mean, it does go to show, obviously, people were making this point, and of course it can be it can be said this way as well, that, like, you know, as much as this proves that, of course, the Giants certainly need to retool this roster, we already knew that. I think it also really emphasizes how fucking bad that Vikings defense really is, and how much
bad.
and how much that unit needs to be retooled, and that firing Ed Donatel was a good decision by Kevin O'Connell.
Well, what's fascinating too is I was reading up on this. I did not realize that the Vikings transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense under Kevin O'Connell, and
there was a scheme shift. Right,
they did not have the personnel to do it, and Ed Donatel did not like make the requisite adjustments to make that work.
Right.
And you know, when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I've always thought of the Vikings as a 4-3 team, right? You know, I mean, those two guys.
Mike Zimmer was always kind of, that was his thing. That was like the
and so I don't like. I think they should go back. I mean, Vikings are a 4-3 team, and they have those edge rushers that fit that better. I mean,
I'm thinking if they maybe choose to do that, if they can keep Zadarius Smith, keep Danielle Hunter, like that can make more sense. And also, I think I really liked Lewis Seen, this safety out of Georgia, out of college, who was a late first-round pick, who was out for the season pretty early. Same thing with Andrew Booth, another safety out of Clemson. I think they will definitely be able to improve a little bit, but I think it just goes to show that, like, that was the weakness, you know, when playing the Giants, not necessarily what the Giants gave them offensively. But overall, I really don't take too many bad things away from this Giants season. I think so much of it was playing with house money, so it
was a very positive season.
And I think all that
no ifs, ands, or buts.
And I think all that they can do now is usher in more of like the Joe Shane era and try and leave much more of the vestiges of the Gettleman era in the past with what they do with the personnel.
Oh boy.
But I guess what I'm mostly curious about, regardless of the margins in that way, what does get done or does not get done with Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones going into, like, you know, either restructuring or tagging or signing them long term. I'm just curious what the future holds for those two in particular.
Well, for what makes sense for them to do, in my opinion, is to give Daniel Jones a 2 to 3 year long contract with some outs, because tagging him might be above or too much for like a yearly annual number for him, especially because they're not completely out of the woods yet with the cap. Tagging Saquon Barkley makes more sense because that running back market, the franchise tag will be set at a much lower number, and they've got to lock up Dexter Lawrence too.
And I think paying a running back top of the market is just by virtue of how these positions are valued, is not nearly as cost prohibitive as tagging quarterback relative to the standard value for even like middling to higher tier quarterback play.
Yeah.
Like the franchise tag, I think, might be like around $25 to $35 million
for a quarterback
per year for a quarterback. So I agree. I think if they can come to a lower number, even if it's a few years for Daniel Jones in that regard, that just might be a better situation. So they're not super financially hamstrung by that, and B, that the long-term investment is not so much that it would either be looked at askance or a huge problem for them to invest in a quarterback via the draft or something at some point later on.
Yeah, I would love. Honestly, I trust Joe Shane to do what he wants with the roster. I would be fine with letting Saquon Barkley walk.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing about that is I totally agree in the sense that like I think that they will be clear-eyed about this regardless of the decision, in the sense of like if that seems to make the most sense, and it's both from like a cost perspective, from like a fit perspective. I just don't think it's going to be an emotional decision, which I think is the most important part.
Right. That's what's the value of not having Gettleman there.
Right. Is to not make it like, oh, like I like this guy.
I
like
took
how
this guy at second overall.
Right.
We got to justify. This regime didn't take him.
I liked how he like bench pressed before the Senior Bowl. Like,
yeah.
It's
Right.
Like, you know,
right.
just like stupid shit to like anecdotal stuff to be like, this is how I make a professional football team.
Right. But Eagles just can't say enough about their team. It's just so complete, and that 49ers matchup is going to be
I'm so excited. It's going to be
such a fun game.
What I will say is, you know, obviously we'll get to the other three games in terms of matchups specifically, but I really think what's great is like sometimes I think with playoffs, like, you know, so I think some people say with like the NBA can kind of be like, oh, like it's sort of foretold before the season. Very, very often the best teams do.
Mm-hmm.
There was like less room for upsets or whatever. But here I actually think like the four best and most deserving teams and the four teams that I want to play each other and wanted to play each other, fortunately, are playing each other.
Exactly.
Like,
and we'll get into why the Bills are not deserving of it in a little bit.
Especially if they were somehow able to win that game, even if they were able to get more points than the Bengals, I still would be like, I don't think this is going to be a particularly competitive matchup. Given how the Chiefs played relative to how the Bills played.
Well, look at that. It's just organically we're on the Bills and Bengals.
Let's do
here.
it. Yeah.
I picked the Bengals to win. Both Bradley and I did. I was shocked that they were 5.5-point underdogs. And
and I think especially after the game we saw, I saw something was amiss with that line. Because it did not play out that way.
The public has overvalued the Bills the Vegas and the public have overvalued the Bills the whole year.
And I think we really saw the limits to that, given what was clear in that matchup was the sheer lack of depth combined with a not particularly creative scheming up for that to account for that lack of talent on both ends of the ball.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Leslie Frazier and what they and McDermott and what they had and their scheme on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that start from the Bengals in that snow game with Burrow, he went 9 for 9 to start the game, and 2 touchdowns basically right off the bat. And there seemed to be very little resistance. And you just kind of saw and also they did not test that injured backup filled offensive line with a pass rush whatsoever. That
to me was potentially the most shocking thing is you saw a few reps where guys like, because to recap, Alex Kappa not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Lael Collins not playing.
Out for
Jonah Jackson is that?
Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams not playing.
Yeah.
So there were 3 backups in Hakeem Adeniji, Cordell Volson, who I just do have to say Cordell Volson is a white man from North Dakota, which
his name's Cordell.
Really shocked me.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I really was like, oh, okay.
You just don't expect that.
Yeah, you just don't expect a Cordell Volson being a guy from North Dakota necessarily, but it was either Jackson Carman, who was a early round pick for them, either in this draft or the draft before that, and there were reps where Carman was pancaking guys like Ed Oliver or Greg Rousseau, and even when I mentioned to you before we got on air, is there was a snap where Burrow didn't really have any options and started to scramble, and it was a one-on-one foot race to the sideline with him and Greg Rousseau. Mm-hmm. Greg Rousseau, considered one of the most explosive athletes, edge rushers out of the draft he came out of from Miami, and Burrow was beating him relatively easily to the sideline.
Yeah.
So it just really showed that the combination of these three backup linemen who under any other matchup would be pressure points to hit over and over from a hungry front seven, they couldn't get the job done against those guys, and which made it so much easier for Burrow in ways that it was not supposed to be easy for him. They made a meal out of guys that were not reserves.
Yeah,
it was really alarming to see. I couldn't believe how lifeless they looked against three backup offensive linemen.
And I mean, they were slipping too on that snowy field a little bit, but that doesn't explain Burrow's ability to scramble like he did, and it also doesn't explain Mixon had over 100 yards. And the Bengals' run game, from an efficiency standpoint, is nothing really to write home about. But Mixon was making it look easy throughout the day.
100%. He was right. He was getting chunk yards at will, and also just out muscling them too, just like hitting hard and like not getting much resistance even when either at the goal line or in the middle of the field.
But this is part of what we were saying all year about the Bills, is that the talent is not what the betting public thinks.
Right.
It's not the Chiefs. They don't have Frank Clark and Chris Jones,
even Karlaftis now.
Karlaftis is coming on.
Strong, yeah.
I mean, the 49ers and the Eagles are stacked. Like, there's nothing.
And just the style of play, the aggressiveness, the smarts, the communication, it just is. And like we've been saying in terms of the injuries, we know Von Miller was not there. We know Micah Hyde was not there. But it's the same point we make about offensive personnel.
Yeah.
You have to be able to accommodate that with whether it's scheme, whether it's aggressiveness, whether it's changing the style of play to accommodate that. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was remarkable to see how stark that contrast was between the Bengals offense and the Bills defense, but the same thing occurred on the other side of the ball as well.
Well, and on the offensive side of the ball, it's the same thing, right? Like, I mean, let's take a look at the rest of these teams that are still left.
Right.
You have a receiving duo of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins,
right.
Let alone Hayden Hurst. I think is still undervalued and disrespected.
And the one thing I wanted to highlight there that I thought was an amazing play call, and which I think the tide is turning a little for me with Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan as an offensive duo, because I think maybe there was some rustiness and some risk aversion being a new coach and everything, but now I kind of feel like they're understanding their personnel better. They're understanding how to scheme up their personnel better. I think the line improving has helped them be able to be a little bit more comfortable with stuff to do for Burrow. The changing from the under center to shotgun stuff has been super helpful, obviously. But the one play that I really think highlighted that is the Hurst touchdown. Is that they faked a screen to Chase.
That was beautiful.
Which caused all of the Bills defenders to gravitate basically towards Chase, and Hurst just slipped out of a block and got the touchdown. And it's that's when you know you can use the gravity of your star to get other guys to maximize their chances.
Exactly.
And the Bills, like we've been saying, the Bills don't really have those options nearly as available to them.
I mean, in terms of weapons, of the remaining teams, the Eagles, the Bengals, we know at the receiver position that they exceed that.
Of course.
But of these four remaining teams, the Bills, the running backs aren't as good.
Nope.
And
they couldn't really rely on the running game for a while either.
Their offensive line is average at best.
And that showed too because even guys who are mostly run stuffers, BJ Hill, DJ Reader, big guys in the middle, they were getting through. They were giving Allen problems.
Trey Hendrickson. I mean,
who was just a great pass rusher. That's just his thing.
The point is just that the Bills are not made. I mean, there was a reason that they threw the bag at Von Miller, and it's because they understood that they do not have that many playmakers on their team, and that's why I was so bullish on the Bengals. The 49ers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, I mean, a little bit less so because it's so much more on Mahomes, are such much more complete teams than the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it was like not even close the whole game.
I think it was so apparent. In that this Bengals team is not the team that played the Rams last February.
Yeah.
That this team is much more complete, understands itself so much more, has a real identity on both sides of the ball, and can adapt way more to their opponents and to the specific matchups. And that's like we're seeing that more and more offensively. But Anarumo is kind of like the prime example of a coordinator who really is able to take the versatility of his bunch of guys and just adapt it to who he's playing. He's not coming out there with the same coverages, the same scheme every single snap. He's always trying to get you sort of off balance as an offense.
Right.
And we've seen it, and I think they've won 10 in a row now at this point, or 9 in a row or something. We've seen it in every game dating back to the regular season.
Ever since October, it's like they've
a switch flip. They're
seen
there.
Another gear. Yeah,
Totally.
gotten to another gear.
So it's really amazing. I honestly think, and again, what I'm fascinated about for this matchup is that coming up this coming weekend.
I was just checking the spread. It's a 1-point spread.
Which that's a pick'em, of course. Totally makes sense.
And 2.5-point underdogs with the 49ers. Like, what great games we have coming up.
It's gonna be so
Can
good.
Can it start tomorrow?
I know. I wish. I'm like getting nervous. The team, and also the thing with this Chiefs Bengals matchup that we've seen every time is that the Bengals have been able to get one over on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
This is a big matchup, not just in terms of the two best teams in the AFC, but narratively, can Mahomes finally beat Burrow? He couldn't get it done in the regular season, and then it was a great conference finals last year when he couldn't get it done either. And there are very few quarterbacks that have really had Mahomes' number throughout his career, and you can basically whittle it down to Burrow and Tom Brady over both being in Tampa and in New England.
Yeah,
and that's really it.
Yep.
So it'll be really fascinating to see if Mahomes can overcome this, and of course the big question mark with that as a follow up is, how healthy will he be to do so?
That's the question, and I want to get to that in a second. But I just want to highlight even more how bad the not bad, I shouldn't say, but how overrated Josh Allen's support system is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, that run game was really terrible yesterday.
They couldn't get anything going.
He's the leading rusher again.
Yep.
Again.
They couldn't get anything going with Singletary or Hines. Really, there was just nothing to be had. And there wasn't
6 for 24.
And there wasn't anything particularly interesting about the calls to try and do it.
I know James Cook had a touchdown, but he didn't. Did he? No, he didn't actually.
He didn't. No rushing touchdowns, I don't believe. I'll have to double check because Cook definitely did not.
Okay, then I'm mistaken. Either way, he was like 5 for 13, something like that. It just, they can't run the ball.
And they only had one touchdown. It was just Josh Allen. There was only one touchdown.
Right. It was the 10 points. It's getting ridiculous at this point in Buffalo. Why can they not figure out a way to run the ball? And it's because the team is built way too much on Josh Allen and Josh Allen doing everything. And so, like, people that are and he's been injured. The elbow injury has lingered, right? And it's caused him to make some mistakes. But the reason that they're unable to overcome those mistakes is because they have no plan B except Josh Allen drop back and go to town, go off, right? Throw a bomb downfield, that kind of deal. It's just, I really do wish that that the Bills were a little bit more, creative in the way that they're going to set up their team. It's unfair to him, and there's going to be two narratives coming out of this weekend about quarterbacks. It's going to be, is Dak the guy? And we'll get into that. But it's also going to be criticism of Josh Allen. I just think it's completely unwarranted. It's also aided and abetted by the fact that Stephon Diggs, who I think is really cool and funny and smart, and I seem to based on what I see of him in interviews, he's a fun player and I root for him. But yet again, he was throwing a tantrum essentially, and he left the locker room right as soon as the game was over.
Yeah, it was clear he was frustrated about something when it came to Allen, or at least the offensive game plan. And
receivers do that.
It didn't particularly even seem like Allen was responding, which I also wonder if that's probably why he was frustrated. Is that it seemed like maybe Allen seemed a little bit cowed or like kind of resigned to what the outcome of this game might be. So I understand, but I think what it goes to show is that Diggs is fantastic. Allen is fantastic, but it's only two players. And
Yes, that's it.
We can go through it a little bit in terms of when you look at, as you were saying, with we talking about the run game, but also Gabe Davis is supposed to be an X-style deep threat, as he has been in the playoffs before. But the issue here was, one, he did not replicate that explosive game that he had against the Chiefs last year. And two, he had a massive, super consequential drop that could have changed this game if he caught it. A super long, beautiful Allen pass that he dropped right before the end zone. If you're supposed to be the number 2 option, and in the sense that, let's compare it. If you're supposed to be basically Buffalo's version of a T. Higgins, Buffalo's version of a Devontae Smith, Buffalo's version of a Deebo Samuel or George Kittle, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
If you have that, and I know it's silly and anecdotal, but if people refer to you as Big Game Gabe or something like that, you have to actually live up to that.
Yeah,
you can't be either below average or one-dimensional type player who's not actually delivering results in big moments. Exactly.
That's who he is.
And then the same thing applies to Isaiah McKenzie, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox. All of these guys serve roles and do the
Knox had a good game
and do what they do
yeah.
pretty well. But it's all this is to say is it's not enough of an infrastructure to satisfy or to complement the excessive usage that Josh Allen gets as a result.
Yeah.
And we saw that very plainly yesterday. That they could only muster up 10 points of offense, and then their defense couldn't hold up at the end on the other end as a result either.
I'm just frustrated on his behalf, and I want them to win the Super Bowl. But it's not going to happen unless they really get serious about getting playmakers on that team. Difference makers, guys that are going to change and take some pressure off of Josh Allen.
And specifically,
change the game, I should say.
And with that, I think in terms of how we look at that, it's truly people who can generate explosive plays, people who can generate game-breaking plays.
Yeah,
stuff that changes the math, stuff that changes the calculations from the other team. It doesn't seem as if that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, Diggs is the man, but he's not like a physical freak in the same way that a Jamar Chase or an A.J. Brown is, for example.
Or Justin Jefferson, for example.
That too, yeah.
He's not one of those guys where the entire defense will form their game plan around him.
Exactly.
They can divert resources to other players to make it even harder for Josh Allen to get the ball out of his hands.
He's like a high-end New England style receiver where he's
Absolutely
smart. He's going to do everything right. He's
great route runner.
But I'm always going to side more on the physical freak guy because you can teach that to an extent. And I just don't think Allen is not Allen, but Diggs is as physically talented as some of the other high-end wide receivers in the NFL.
And exactly. And I think the big thoughts and thought processes for the Bills going into this offseason will be, how can we get more explosive on offense, and how can we just simply, if once Von Miller's healthy, if he's going to come back to Buffalo, once Micah Hyde's healthy, once they get all of that in order in terms of the health on their defense, can we add more depth to not feel so stretched thin in the front seven and in the secondary?
And they need to see if Ken Dorsey is the answer at all.
And that's another question too.
Yeah.
And because one thing that I feel like I was seeing from Sean McDermott and from Ken Dorsey on the offensive perspective was a conservatism that was not benefiting them, especially when you have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You got with this game getting out of hand, you have to throw the kitchen sink at everything and not think that we need to basically play to get an inch further or to tie the game. You were 2 scores down. Mm-hmm. Almost 3. It has to be more. It has to be more urgent than that.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. Speaking of Mahomes, because I guess, were we speaking of Mahomes? Or actually, let's just do this. Speaking of the quarterback that actually probably deserves more criticism.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
Dak Prescott did not have a great game.
Oh, my God.
So much so that a media personality, one named Skip Bayless, famous Cowboys fan.
Big week for the Undisputed Crew. I was saying this to Emma earlier. Shannon Sharp almost getting in a fight with the full Memphis Grizzlies squad in L.A. and Skip Bayless having a full-on meltdown that the Cowboys lost this game.
Let's watch that meltdown, shall we? Because Like, normally I wouldn't want to play Skip Bayless content on here, but this dude knows what he's doing, right? They're actors on that program. They're doing performance art, and Skip took to his social media to do this performance art. There's a lot of things I want to point out about this clip. Why is his kitchen the ugliest kitchen I've ever seen? And he has a ton of money. I mean, the tile is yellow and black, piss yellow and black. He has a black shag carpet and a framed anchor. Put this up, Bradley, here, because you can see him waiting in the doorway. See that, guys? Zoom in, enhance if you're watching.
He's a Cowboys fan, and he has like Steelers tiling.
It is. Whoever was the interior designer for this, I'm sorry, but you need to get another job because it is really ugly. And he has an Anchorman poster, which is hilarious to me in and of itself. But see that little hand? See that little jersey? Here he is waiting for his cue.
His wife probably.
It's like, yeah, his buddy, his wife doing this, his assistant. Here comes Skip to show how upset he is at Dak Prescott. He sighs. Okay. And he huffs and he puffs and he walks away. Go back to the beginning. I'm so sorry. After seeing, we're playing this again, and I know this is not really intellectual content, but I can't get over it. Him waiting in the doorway, which you can see. Then he walks in and goes, ah! He huffs and he puffs. Let's go. There he goes.
He got some sort of cue.
Yeah. Into the bagless trash can over there that he probably fished out, and then
he probably hasn't done this since since he's done it with a Kaepernick jersey.
Yo, zinger!
the
It's so much there.
The wild thing about this is like Skip loves doing this type of performance art to the point where it's like borderline masochistic. Like, do you remember the video where, I don't remember after what Cowboys loss it was, where it's just like a front-facing video where he's just silent, like huffing
crying.
And he's just like
crying. He's forcing tears out.
And I'm like, my man, this is like you need help. Like even if it's performative, like this is like,
that's why he gets paid the big bucks, though.
You're cutting a silent promo about your shitty NFL team, like for engagement to basically be called an asshole.
Yeah,
like that's the point.
Yeah,
like, it's for people like us and others to just call you a piece
and make
of
fun of you. I mean, he's essentially standing in the middle of the town square and saying, "Throw tomatoes at me," and I get off on it. Yeah. Actually, I make money off of it.
Yeah, it's like I don't even call him
a circus clown.
I don't call him a clown derisively. I call him a clown to describe him professionally.
Yeah, no, that is what he fills out on his tax form.
It's like
professional clown.
Yeah, he's a clown. Like, yeah. he's a clown that works for Fox Sports.
I mean, he's a clown in many respects, but actually, legitimately, that is the role that he fills in society as a media clown.
I love
someone
it.
to perform. And like, it makes it better because it's the Cowboys, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Right?
It's like and also like, it is, a few people were making this observation on Twitter. It is astonishing to me that we basically were in this same exact scenario a year ago. Like,
yeah,
these Cowboys somehow lost a game in the last second by a backbreakingly, impossibly stupid last play and last minute strategizing again.
I mean, the Cowboys have now lost in the divisional round 7 straight times.
Yep.
After reaching it.
They have not been to a conference finals. Like
26 years?
Since
the last time they won the Super Bowl, right?
Exactly.
What was that, 97?
I mean, their last road playoff win, which they got against the Bucks, was literally in the H.W. Bush administration. Like, we talk about the Cowboys in the kind of in the same way as we talk about like the Steelers or the Patriots as like a pedigree institution of the NFL, but it's a lot of like glorified older history because at this point, the age of Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman was almost 30 years ago. This team hasn't done anything significant or groundbreaking in the playoffs in a very long time.
They're the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL.
And it is such an apt comparison because of the historical weight combined with the playoff impotence that they experience.
I mean, and also if hockey's Canada's sport, Toronto, it's their most popular team.
America's team is the Cowboys,
team.
exactly, or Canada's team is the Maple Leafs, and they both have the same habit of
star players,
attracting star players. The anticipation that this season or that season might be their year, only to get to this point and somehow lose in like uniquely devastating fashion.
It just goes to show that not all teams are alike in terms of even when they have talented rosters, and the more talented team won in that game.
Without question, that I gotta give credit because I gotta give credit on both sides, both of these units. The Cowboys defense had a good game plan.
They did. Dan Quinn's gonna leave that team and get a head coaching job.
He should at this point.
It seems like he's gonna go to Denver, which is an interesting choice.
Well, I also saw that
he would make that defense shut down.
I saw that there were some reports that Peyton got a second round that with Denver, so we'll see what happens there as well.
Sean, don't do that, dude.
I
really don't want to have to see you and Russell Wilson.
It's really devastating.
I like Sean Payton a lot, and I thought
really
he liked warm weather. This is why the Chargers are idiots, because he would have 100% taken that job.
There's no vacancy. Yeah, they still they still got their guy.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
but they had a great game plan with basically trying to, I think, really exploit the interior of the offensive line, which has played well, but is not the strength of the Niners offensive line.
Right.
And so a lot of their edge, Tank Lawrence was getting home. Jonathan Hankins, who's had a really nice last eight or 9 games.
Jonathan Hankins.
He's had a nice 8 or 9 games. And he had a great game against the Bucs. He was really in Brady's face most of that game, and he had a really nice game this time around as well. He was definitely
a Giants second round pick. That's
He was a
I was
former
making sure
Giant.
it was the same Jonathan Hankins. Yes,
former Giant, then on the Raiders, cut by the Raiders, signed by the Cowboys. They were definitely getting some good pressure on Brock Purdy and making some of his usual, spots much more easy, much more difficult to get to, which is why Deebo Samuel was not that much of a factor. He was kind of stuffed up at every point in terms when they were trying to get him going and get him to, get separation and get it and lash off a big run. So what the Niners did, which I think was the right move, was they said, okay, let's go to one of our other release valves. Let's just get the ball to George Kittle. And this is where Kittle showed his value, is that he's not only a really smart player, he's not only a really tough player in blocking situations. He has great hands, and when he gets the ball, he can get yards after the catch very easily. He's under, of course, Travis Kelce gets so much of the shine for being one of the best, maybe the best offensive tight end in the history of the game.
Yeah.
But Kittle is really, really, like, it's not even that he's underrated. It's more just it's games like these where some of those weapons are taken away, or at least not as easy, especially with McCaffrey going in and out of the game too, because he was slightly hurt, even though he was able to come back for a pretty heroic rushing touchdown towards the end to kind of seal the game for them. But that even when things are hard or muddy, they could go to Kittle, and he went to work.
Yeah, he had a great game.
And that circus catch was one of the most unbelievable catches I've ever seen.
He's a stud. And Ayuk is a really good player that I feel like doesn't get a ton of the shine because the offense is not a typical offense where he's going to be utilized in the way he would be, say, if he was on the Cowboys or something like that. But Ayuk had a solid game too, and he's a really, really great number two.
And he almost, I would say, is similar to someone like, he has a similar skill set. And I wouldn't say necessarily they're one-to-one players, but in terms of intelligence and route running, he's almost like a Stephon Diggs in the 49ers lineup, with his route recognition, his footwork, how shifty he is. But the difference with obviously having a Brandon Ayuk is that, and the difference with the 49ers and the Bills is Brandon Ayuk also is flanked by Christian McCaffrey and
Deebo Samuel
and George Kittle. And then even, as we were saying last week, Juwan Jennings and Eli Mitchell are like literally secondary pieces who would be like number ones on bad teams.
Did you hear that the broadcast crew called him Donovan Mitchell?
Yes, oh my God, that was so
hilarious. Donovan Mitchell, I saw tweeted about it. I love that guy. God, I wish he was a Knick.
He's 71 points. I'll never forget it.
Soon enough.
Yeah, wink, wink.
Maybe. When you hit free agency,
call us.
then you can go see Mets games all the time.
Yeah, you don't have to fly from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Former Mets legend Kevin Burkhardt on the broadcast with Greg Olson. Good crew, honestly. Burkhardt used to be the the color guy for the Mets broadcast.
Yeah, he's good. Olson. Is Tom Brady really going to honor this damn Fox contract? I really hope he doesn't, because I don't want them to supplant Olson. Tom Brady is the least authentic person besides Russell Wilson in the NFL. I don't want to hear his thoughts on the game. Like
he also will be miserable in that job. He's not going to do it. I have no doubt in my mind.
I called my shot when that stupid contract was announced when he retired from the NFL. I said it's not happening. It's not happening. No chance.
You take a cushy media job if you're a guy who would want a cushy media job.
Yeah.
He's a psychopath.
Yes. And he's also not honest, so he doesn't want to actually give honest assessments about what's happening on the game.
No.
I would not want him as a broadcaster. There's a lot of other whatever. We're getting into a different territory here. But
no, he's going to do riskier things, like probably go to prison for something. Just like
for FTX.
New challenges, you know?
Right.
New environments.
Yeah, I would love to see him in prison.
Jail Brady. But what I will say though, the most impressive, basically what I think, because of how in the weeds these two defenses got, is I was impressed because of this. I was impressed by the 49ers offense being able to get just enough to get over the hump against the Cowboys offensively, because they were confident enough in their defense to win those battles against the Cowboys, and they really did. I mean, the Niners made Dak Prescott uncomfortable from the very first snap, essentially.
Yeah.
And the first pick by Diamador Lenore, one of their cornerbacks, who honestly is probably one of their least heralded guys on a fantastic defense. He read that route and where that ball was going, which also that ball was pretty severely underthrown by Dak.
Yeah, it was it looked like it was in the air for way too long.
It basically kind of like came down at the knees, sort of, and he read it immediately. He had like 5 steps on that ball. It was a great play. And then the next one is just from who I would probably say, maybe not, in terms of how we evaluate Defensive Player of the Year, in terms of like metrics, sacks. I know it's not easy for a linebacker to win these awards, but if you talk about valuable to a particular defense, that's Fred Warner. Fred Warner might
Holy shit, that play when he dropped back in coverage.
That was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen on a football field.
Best linebacker in the NFL right now.
He was mugged up in pass and looking as if he was going to blitz. The second the ball is snapped, he is running vertically all the way up the field and broke up that pass to CeeDee Lamb. It was a phenomenal play. A one of one.
I should say best inside linebacker in the NFL, but anyway, go on.
But no, it's just like, what linebacker in terms of smarts, route recognition, reflexes, angles, closing speed, who's making that play?
Yeah.
Just him.
It's
unbelievable.
Stupid aside, but I know Bradley likes reality TV like me. Did you watch that season? I think she was on Pilot Pete's season of The Bachelor.
Oh, yeah.
That woman, Sydney.
Yes.
They're married. She's like the really beautiful...
Wait, sorry. Her Sydney from The Bachelor and Fred Warner.
Yeah. Look it up.
Oh.
Yeah, she's like a gorgeous, she's
biracial. Oh, I remember her.
I wonder why. Why do you remember her?
I remember. I certainly remember her. She was kind of a pseudo villain, but she didn't make it far enough.
Exactly.
Get that.
There you go.
Yeah,
They're together. Yeah. They're married. So she really cashed in.
Wow.
Good for her.
That's shocking stuff. I'm gonna have to check out his Instagram and see some of those pics.
She is she's someone
She's a wag.
To
Good
look
for her.
upon. She's beautiful.
She's a wag. Good for her.
Yeah, exactly. That's like honestly what those Bachelor shows should be, just funnel systems for wives.
The Niners have a great system there. Olivia Culpo is dating Christian McCaffrey. free.
There you go.
Kyle Juszczyk's girlfriend, I think, is like a TikToker. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, they have a real wag to influencer pipeline going on over there.
Maybe top wag to influencer pipeline in the NFL.
But it was really, that I think, as much as I really respected the way the Cowboys defense played, and as much as the skill position players and Purdy to a degree. Purdy had a harder day because this was a more difficult offense, but he was still able to get better defense than the Niners as opposed to the Seahawks that he had a bit of a harder day at the office, which totally makes sense. But he remained upright. He didn't really turn the ball over. He wasn't on the ground every snap or anything like that. He was able to remain confident and remain poised there. So I admire him. I admired that out of his play today, even if it was just for 16 points, 17 points.
Yeah.
But the biggest statement made here is what the Niners defense did and how uncomfortable they made Dak Prescott.
Absolutely.
And how little they were able to get on the ground even before Tony Pollard suffered a very unfortunate injury. And then I just think we have to get to it. I mean, this was Mike McCarthy's crown jewel.
Yeah.
This was performance art.
So what was that play at the? First of all, it's Mike McCarthy. It is inevitable. It is like sundown. It is like the sunset. It is like the sunrise.
It was beautiful. The
time varies from at different points in the year, but it's always going to come. And Mike McCarthy being Mike McCarthy, it happened. I was watching
the game with my fiance, and when that play happened, when running back Ezekiel Elliott lined up at the center position, got steamrolled.
Oh wait, a running back is not going to be able to block effectively at that position?
And you wonder did they run this in practice? Was there any practical application of this fever dream that Mike McCarthy cooked up? He was like, you know what? I think this is going to be it. We got this, boys.
And then so Dak gets lit up, but also he threw. It was third down and final play of the game. You should be Hail Marying it, and he threw behind.
Well, okay. So to
sticks.
to recap the last minute or two. They get a blessing because Eli Mitchell accidentally ran out of bounds to not keep the clock going.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of a mistake on Mitchell's part to give them a set of downs because the Cowboys defense was able to get a stop and make it get to fourth down. The Niners punt the ball back. First play out, like an intermediate throw to Dalton Schultz. Schultz somehow, some way, goes sideways out of bounds, not forward, so the clock doesn't stop. So the clock is still running, but they get the yardage. Same second play, same exact play to Dalton Schultz. Schultz does it again. He does it a second time. They initially call him as having forward progress. The clock stops. They review it, and they have to go all the way back because he again sidestepped out of bounds for the second time.
This is very valuable because I was doing the live show last night.
So you probably got the highlights.
I saw the condensed game. I did not see this end. So please continue.
So for some reason, it seems as if the McCarthy, like we were talking about with, how Silk from Diamond and Silk considers the COVID vaccine. It seems like McCarthy brain is also a pathogen that once there's a 2-minute warning in a clutch situation, a playoff game, that just transfers to the players that they somehow immediately become lobotomized.
No, it's coaching. That's why it's a pathogen. He's literally not coaching them correctly because he's a shitty coach.
The wild thing to me is Schultz is he's a reliable player. Mm-hmm. He's a good player. He makes the right plays. Mm-hmm. And then he just looked like he had no understanding of what the game situation was in this very pivotal time to know what the game situation is.
It was last year, too, when they were arrogant enough to think that they could run that draw with Dak running up the middle against the 49ers. And they just didn't account for the fact that the official had to get in there to hand them off so they could spike the ball because they had no timeouts left. And then they
I'm sorry.
Last year.
Oh, no, excuse me. Lanzetta from the YouTube chat and Doc Tucson are reminding me. The issue wasn't this first time. It was the forward progress. The second time is he caught the ball and for some reason lifted his foot up and put it out of bounds. So he had 1 foot in bounds. They called it a complete pass, but when you went to the replay, he caught it, didn't put both of his feet in bounds. He just
like on purpose, and he could have.
He literally, like, there was space. He literally just put his one foot down and then high stepped his other foot out of bounds. so at this point I'm cackling. Like I'm really I'm maniacally laughing.
Yeah.
And this is before Zeke Elliott comes out to line up at center. And so they have at this point about 6 seconds on the clock. Zeke lines up at center in front of like a probably 270-pound either edge rusher, defensive tackle. I couldn't remember. I couldn't see exactly who it was who was lining up against him, and then Dak, and then other players just spread around the formation, assuming for like a draw or a lateral or something. Snap the ball. Zeke gets run over immediately.
Yeah.
Zeke gets immediately pushed into the field.
Yeah.
Dak, instantly realizing he has zero protection because the only person who was lined up there is Zeke, gets the ball really quickly to Kevontae Turpin. The announcers are prepping to be like, all right, let's see where this goes. He is immediately drilled into the floor. Like instantly just flattened and the game is over.
Yeah.
At that point, my fiance was like, Bradley, why do you have face paint on? Why do you have green hair? Why are you wearing a pinstriped suit? Because I had become the Joker.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, I had somehow become the Joker just in my living room. That was
a beautiful story.
It was shocking. It was so I literally could not believe what I was watching, but I should have, because this is Mike McCarthy.
This is the thing.
This is the Cowboys in the playoffs.
And he'll fool you in the regular season because he does have like an arrogance where he walks around and the guys play like they're badasses, right? And they'll play tough to a degree, but they do not play smart, and he does not know how to get them to play smart. And that's what happens in the playoffs, right? I mean, he is an undisciplined coach. And if you want to get serious about actually winning a championship, you need discipline and an understanding of in-game situations.
And I think it's just similar in the sense that, like, if a similar thing keeps happening, there just are clearly limitations with the team. Mm-hmm. Like, in terms of if there shouldn't always be a time in the playoffs for this Cowboys team where they are running up against needing a touchdown. They are running up against the clock running down to 0. They are running up against not having done enough to put themselves in a position to win.
Yeah.
So of course, I think Mike McCarthy deserves blame for, like you said, not keeping this team disciplined, not having the right strategy sometimes going into games, clock management failures. But at the same time, it's the other thing too is Kellen Moore the consistently best option for their offense? Because there are times where they look fantastic, and then there are times where they look completely hapless.
I've thought Kellen Moore has been overrated as an offensive coordinator for a long time.
And because the thing for me clearly with them is the consistency there. There's no consistency from game to game. We went from the Commanders game where Dak Prescott has one of his worst games in his pro career to one of his best games against the Bucs to this game, where he just looked completely out of sorts almost the entire time.
Well, let's talk about Dak Prescott if you
because now we're looking at almost a postmortem of this Cowboys team. Where do they go next? What's next for these guys?
I don't think Dak is even close to their biggest problem, right? We just talked about Mike McCarthy creating an undisciplined, entitled culture in Dallas, which is exacerbated by the fact that, frankly, that ownership creates that culture as well. Like they're very,
and because the star of the show is
they're the Cowboys. We have the star on our helmet. Like and
the star of the show is the owner.
Yeah,
it's the owner's show. It's always
so
Jerry's
the
show.
fish does rot from the head down to a degree. But Mike McCarthy was bad at this kind of crap in Green Bay. I mean, that's why Aaron Rodgers hasn't won multiple Super Bowls is because of this man.
And probably still wants to murder him slightly.
I would too. But. And just speaking of the other problems, right? Like Ezekiel Elliott, that contract. Let me read this. It was a tweet from Kyle Yates. Ezekiel Elliott is slated to account for $16.7 million against the cap for the Dallas Cowboys in 2023, $11.8 million in dead money, and only $4.86 in cap saving if he's cut. He won't hit free agency until 2027 under his current contract. I mean, Tony Pollard broke his leg in that. And I feel horrible for him because he deserved to get paid. And
is clearly the better back on that team.
And because
very clearly
of the fish rotting from the head down, Jerry liking Zeke and drafting him high and having that contract be on the books, they have been forcing Ezekiel Elliott into the starting role to a degree, or to have carries when Tony Pollard should be getting all of those carries, or a great majority of them. And so if I were Pollard, I would get the hell out of there. But so that's like a major problem as well. Lawrence on the defensive side is aging, and so they're going to need to find another answer at pass rusher and a lot of things. So Dak's not the number one problem, right?
No.
But I think it's fair to start asking some questions about his decision making when he's really struggling. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over in the Bucs game, but down the stretch and then in this game,
these interceptions were bad.
It's not that, like, that Trevor Lawrence interception, we will get to that game in a bit. Like, he was pushing the issue, and you can see the thinking when Trevor Lawrence kind of makes some of these riskier throws. It's also, I can see that it's coachable, right? Like, it seems like Dak Prescott's regressing.
And this is Trevor's second year. Dak is a more seasoned veteran than Trevor is at this point.
And so
it's really consistency here because the best version of Dak is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion, and I mean that in the sense of his processing. When his processing is at its best, he really sees the game super clearly, and he can really slice up the field. Really, like, he can knife through different coverages. Mm-hmm. He can see really small windows. Like, there are times where I can see him being kind of the person to maximize and optimize this Cowboys team if given better pieces. But then there's the opposite when it seems as if he is not that processing or that decision making or that indecisiveness leads to that inconsistency. It's not nearly as routine or uniform as it should be for him to be. Like, it's kind of alarming how different the worst version and best version of him look when they're contained in the same quarterback. I mean,
and part of that is Mike McCarthy's inability to coach consistency into his football team. But we'll also say he was facing arguably the best defense in the NFL in the 49ers. But the 49ers aren't like Wink Martindale coach. Like, they play tough, but they're not insane like blitzes all the time. Right. They kind of are more just, we have a system and we run it. So
the spine is also the secondary and the linebackers.
Yes,
as in their pass rush is great when healthy. They have great guys in that line, but I think what they're running through is a lot of stuff over the middle, and like you would think his skill set would lend himself to being able to try if you want to be the best and if you want to have a chance against a team like this, you have to be able to somehow take advantage of those great guys, and he couldn't do it.
I don't think he's also doesn't instinctively use his legs to the degree that he could. And
I was feeling similar. Funnily enough, I was feeling that similarly in the Jags game as well. But this is that again, teachable.
Yeah,
for Trevor.
Right.
So he's a second-year guy.
I trust Doug Peterson to do it.
I don't exactly. So I think it's a matter of something I think has to shift there, whether it's a different offensive coordinator, a different head coach, something like that. I don't think it's really. I'm confident in Dak enough to think that I wouldn't necessarily want to be in a position where I'm not moving forward with him with no clear option otherwise.
Oh my gosh, bird in the hand situation. The Cowboys fans that want him gone are insane.
Yeah,
like,
or even
who's the other option?
That's exactly. Who's the other option? Also, even in the draft, I wouldn't necessarily want to take that risk at the expense of my known quantity in Dak. I think the issue for him, though, in Dallas is the infrastructure, like you said, at the top. Mm-hmm. Is that I don't think, especially given his comments, I don't necessarily think Jerry Jones really cares enough to fire Mike McCarthy.
That is exactly spot on, Bradley. He pretends he wants to win a Super Bowl before he dies, but he's not gonna. He's kind of a wealthy hoarder of money, and he doesn't want to pay out Mike McCarthy's contract to get Sean Payton.
I think that's it, in the sense that I don't think he particularly minds necessarily that McCarthy might be holding this team back, because I also think he likes McCarthy enough, and I also think he probably thinks that McCarthy cedes the spotlight to him enough where he wouldn't have to rock the boat at all.
Well said. Yeah.
I think if he really was willing to put all his chips into the middle of the table, he would buy out McCarthy, and he would look for the option to get the most out of his players.
Peyton wants to go there.
Exactly.
But
Peyton's been there. Peyton has experience on that team. He has experience with Jerry Jones. I just think that he doesn't. I don't think he's willing to make those sacrifices or willing. And I don't think he wants to win. Like you said, I don't think he wants to win a championship that bad. If he does, he'd fire Mike McCarthy and do everything he can to hire Sean Payton.
But Sean Payton would want control. But Sean Payton would want control of the team.
And Sean Payton would take more recognition and take more of the spotlight from Jerry Jones, 100%, because Sean Payton is Sean Payton.
Yep. So I mean, exactly. Cowboys fans should be furious about that.
Yeah, and it's a tough spot because I sympathize with them in the sense that there have been so many near misses, so many chances to get over the hump and not being able to do so. And that starts at the very top. It's not just their GM. It's one of the worst things for a franchise when the owner has so much capture over the rest of
their owner is the GM.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right. When he has so much control over all of the machinations of the team, it's the same thing with Irsay and the Colts. It's just very difficult to make any progress with that in mind.
Yep. All right. Well, we've touched on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we'll get to him in a sec. We have to talk about Mahomes, though. What else is there to say? We're watching. This is how it felt to watch Aaron Rodgers in his prime, but it's like an evolved version of that because that throw that jump pass to Kelsey before Mahomes unfortunately got injured.
He should have been down. Like he should have been like a different quarterback is sacked twice before that happens, and he's just like nope. Like he's the way he moves, the way he thinks, the way he can just create angles with how he either will submarine or sidearm passes or jump over the line, like you said. All of these things should seem impossible and almost like bend the physics of the position.
Yes.
But he's just capable of doing it.
It looks like you're watching some sort of fantasy movie and the CGI just looks a little off because you're like, that's not possible, right? But this is real life, and it is. And the way that game started, it looked like it was going to be a blowout because of how dialed in Mahomes was. But of course he gets injured. And I saw something, Warren Sharp, shut the fuck up, dude, saying that this was some sort of dirty play by
Arden Key?
Yeah. He was saying, he didn't try to wrap up. He purposely fell on Mahomes' ankle.
No.
His body was being taken down, and there was a Chiefs lineman let's not.
No, I think it looked pretty. It was a bad angle for Key to land on Mahomes' ankle, but that I think is just.
That's honestly a gross reading of it, and you're sticking
like
Chiefs fans on a guy that did nothing wrong in that situation. It's just, I understand that we need to protect our stars in the NFL, but the guys that play the defensive positions are human beings too, and that was not a dirty play. It dilutes the meaning of a dirty play to call it a dirty play. However, Mahomes looked. He was so mad. You could see him just saying, "Don't take me out! Don't take me out! Don't take me out!"
He was so pissed.
He's
through his jacket.
He's got a warrior mentality. It's just one of the other things that make him great. And what you saw when he went out for that time period and then was playing on one leg the rest of the game, Chris Jones in particular, and that Chiefs defense really stepped up.
Oh yeah. They were getting pressure from all of their guys.
Lawrence was getting rocked.
Yeah,
there were so many misassignments by that offensive line, by the way.
And they were showing their inexperience and their health there.
Yeah.
They were relying on a lot of young guys. Luke Fortner, who's a rookie, Walker Little, who was a rookie who came in place of Cam Robinson. They were relying on a lot of youth that had been able to stand up and kind of play above their station, but when you have Frank Clark and Chris Jones, and also credit to some of those other auxiliary guys on that line. Derek Anati had a bunch of great plays. Kalen Saunders had a bunch of great plays, and combined with having Karlaftis off the edge, especially with the way he's been playing, the Chiefs were able to make the Jags offensive line and Trevor very uncomfortable throughout most of that game. And so to give them a real shot to keep the game close while Mahomes wasn't feeling it, wasn't at 100%.
And Spags need to dial it up too, right?
Oh,
He's
yeah,
I'm gonna get I'm gonna
intensity.
get nuts. So
Right.
he made sure to make Trevor uncomfortable, and I was a little bit worried for Trevor Lawrence getting injured, because let's just say this about Trevor Lawrence played great.
He still did. And like we were saying
that pass
before,
that Christian Kirk dropped was beautiful.
and that's the thing is it's you can't put that on him when a ball that's a perfectly placed ball in a place for a number one wide receiver to be in position to compete and catch that ball. It's up to them to make the play.
Well, it'll be Calvin Ridley next year, baby.
And
Isn't that amazing? They're gonna get Calvin Ridley next year.
I also think that they have a lot that they can still do to improve the team. And
Yeah.
of course, you want to get more development out of your young guys in the defense, but I think there's a lot that can be done to also shore up their offensive line and hopefully get that when Cam Robinson's back and a few others, they can be a little bit healthier as well. Huge steps forward from Trevor and from Travis Etienne as a clear number one option at running back. I mean, I'm still very, very impressed with the game plan they had against a team that we obviously know is so good in the playoffs, so good, period.
Yeah.
A huge testament to the Andy Reid infrastructure in this game was when Mahomes himself was not playing, and Chad Henne, the backup of the league, the Uber QB.
Yeah. Him and Chase Daniel are the most backup-y of backups.
The unkillable backup that is Chad Henne, coming in and leading a 98-yard drive, marching down the field for a touchdown. It's like, this goes to show you that there are teams, and we've seen it with the Bills, and we've seen it with others, where the player is the infrastructure. The player, and you see it with their usage, and you see it with their inability to do stuff without that player. The Chiefs are the infrastructure here. Yeah. And you put anyone in, and they are able to do something.
Yes.
Isaiah Pacheco is a 7th-round rookie running back, and he can look like he can start in the league. That doesn't happen everywhere.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon was a guy was a waiver wire guy for a long time who bounced around the league. He is an indispensable part of that offense.
Yeah, it's amazing, and right, like the Chiefs might still make the playoffs if Mahomes wasn't playing, and that's not Mahomes is the MVP.
Henne basically won a playoff game a few years ago,
right?
When Mahomes went out,
exactly.
He played most of the game and they won.
The one before the Bengals game,
exactly.
Right? I forget who they were playing at that time.
Yeah, I'll double check that, but that was when Mahomes went down and he played for basically the whole second half.
Yeah,
and they won the game.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like, oh god,
maybe that was 2 years ago. I can't even remember, but yeah, no, it's just like if the Bills were to lose Josh Allen at the start of the year, say he, God forbid, got injured week 1, how many games do you think that Bills team would win without Josh Allen?
Right.
4 or 5?
Like with Case Keenum as like the
I mean, well, I guess Keenum's a really good backup, but point being is just like the Chiefs have created a system to elevate and create sustained success for their quarterback, who is the best player in football. But just back to Trevor Lawrence really quickly, like he still is making some risky throws, but I don't mind it in the process of his learning process, because I like the mentality that Doug Peterson is instilling in him. It's so important for a young quarterback like that to have confidence. And a lot of more defensive head coaches would try to be like, oh, don't turn the ball over, don't make a mistake. They would prefer a guy like Alex Smith or Teddy Bridgewater, they're not going to take risks, but their completion percentage will be high. Trevor Lawrence, he's just like, fuck it, dude, just sling it downfield. And Lawrence probably could have gotten that ball out ahead of, I forget the receiver who it was, where he had that interception later in the game, but
I think it was Zay Jones, maybe.
Might have been.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
that one. I think there was one pick where I think it was just he really did underthrow it.
Yeah, that's
but,
what he only had one pick in the game, I think.
And another credit for the in the secondary, unbelievable one-handed snag for the interception by Jalen Watson. Again, a lower round pick who has been playing really meaningful minutes for them. Juan Thornhill had a great game. Like this Chiefs defense has been coming on in the best way, in the best moment possible for them to be coming together. And I think the crazy thing with Mahomes in the second half is we saw what Mahomes could do. It was it almost sort of reminded me, of course, it's funny to make this comparison given that Herbert did not have a severe leg injury the entire season, but it's like it was watching him operate a different offense that you wouldn't necessarily see given how much he can use his legs and can use his ingenuity with the ball in his hands when basically because of his lack of mobility, he was just like, okay, I have to stand in the pocket and make these throws. And we remember that he's still literally one of the best throwers in the league, maybe the best thrower in the league, without even any of the crazy theatrics or scrambling or out of structure plays. He just was like, I got to get the ball to Travis Kelce. And it was on the money for 14 catches for 155 yards.
It was literally every other pass that Mahomes dropped back to throw, Kelce caught it. It is a mind meld connection between the two of them. I've never seen anything like it.
And what I thought was so amazing about that too was Kelce didn't even score a touchdown. It was literally all about just getting chunk play after chunk play after chunk play, 10 yards after 10 yards after 10 yards, because the Chiefs offense knew exactly who to highlight.
Yeah.
And it was
Kelce
Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma. It was
the
young Jags linebackers who Kelce was basically dragging with him as he caught the ball.
Kelce's not the best blocker, but he is a good blocker, and they also utilized him a lot, and they were pointing it out that a lot of the plays they were running in that game was Kelce blocking as well. It's just like, I feel like we keep every fantasy draft, you have that thought in the back of your mind, like, is it going to fall off soon? Is Kelce going to fall off? And it's just, no, he's not.
He's just like 33, 34 years old and still like the best tight end in the league.
Hall of Fame tight end for sure.
And both
obviously.
Kelce brothers won on the same day. How crazy is that?
It'd be interesting. They might meet up in the Super Bowl.
And, unfortunately, both Diggs brothers lost on the same day as well.
Well.
Brutal.
Yeah. And I don't care about Trevon because I hate the Cowboys.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. All good.
Also, I find him to be very overrated just because of the whole ball hawk thing. People think that
look at the analytics, guys. Look at the metrics.
Right.
But so overall, I honestly a similar thing just for a little like Jags postmortem. Like, I think there are definitely clear places they can improve, but I thought both of their game plans their game plan offensively and defensively was the right one. They tried to they didn't get conservative because they were worried about what the Chiefs could do to them. They really just tried to match up with them specifically. It's just what the Chiefs did, which I think was exactly what they had to do, was isolate those linebackers who were clearly the weak points in the defense and make Etienne block, and which was not an easy. Etienne's an okay run blocker, but okay blocker in terms of protection, but he's not a leader or not a super. It's like something he's still improving upon. And Trevor played admirably, kept them in the game, only lost by a touchdown. I think I would feel incredible as a Jags fan after this season, winning a playoff game, going from worst to first in your division with a clear path forward for two really important skill position guys in Lawrence and Etienne, and losing to the Chiefs is nothing to nothing to hang your head about. They're the best team in the league.
They need some improvements and fortification in the secondary. The Jaguars do, and just some more depth, I think, on defense.
Totally.
Some more offensive line depth. But the reality is that they're a very young team.
Exactly.
And their high-end talent is, in terms of what those guys can achieve once they mature and understand a little bit more how to play the game. Like, the Giants are another, feel-good story from the playoffs, but the Jaguars are a lot more talented than the Giants in terms of what they currently have on the roster.
And you say that about the youth, like Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, very young guys early in their career. Etienne was out for the season his rookie year. He's only going to improve with more reps and a bigger run of health in terms of the seasons ahead. Trevor Lawrence basically we can basically cross out his rookie year because Urban Meyer was his coach.
Yeah, redshirt.
Exactly. He redshirted his NFL career basically because now he has a real coach and is one of the better quarterbacks in the league already.
Right.
And even these guys who I think struggled, in this Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma, those running backs. Linebackers. They're rookies. They were asked to do a lot in this postseason already, and in this season as starting caliber linebackers. Walker Little, Luke Forter, who I mentioned earlier, those are rookies. These are all a lot of young guys who will have a lot of time to develop, mature, and produce. And so I think I would only consider this season, especially where they were just literally a calendar year ago, a resounding success. But fortunately, moving on to going on, we fortunately have the conference finals rematch to look forward to as a result, and we'll really see what both of these teams, both the Cincinnati and Kansas City, are made of once they match up again in this situation where they were literally a year ago.
I cannot wait. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take some calls, read some IMs. Be right back. We are back. We are back, ready to take your calls and read your IMs. This is a funny one from Mind Pillow Guy. ESVN fans should hijack the hashtag 80 for Brady movie and post about why Tom Brady deserves to be sentenced to 80 years to life in prison. Honestly, great idea. I'm gonna see that movie because I love all of the women.
I would like it. We had a oral history of Rikers Island as the guests and the authors of that on our show for the Majority Report this afternoon. I'd like an oral history of 80 for Brady.
Me too.
How the hell did this get produced? There are so many rounds of like green lighting stuff, and like somehow, some way, there was like, let's do a Nancy Meyer style movie where 4 octogenarian women go to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
and meet Tom
I just
Brady.
saw it's produced by Tom Brady.
Okay, so maybe that was probably a little bit of a shortcut.
He might be able to bankroll it with all that
exactly.
money.
It could have been independently funded.
Although maybe I shouldn't watch it because I don't want to financially support him. But at the same time, like, okay.
Oh my God! But think about it: Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Rita Moreno. And wait, who's the last? Who's the fourth?
Sally Field.
It's Sally Field. Oh, it's really.
That's what I'm saying.
It's really
right?
4 national treasures.
Billy Porter's in it.
Oh my God, and Billy Porter.
Guy Fieri.
Yeah, it's
as himself.
There are wild cameos.
Tom Brady as himself. Okay. Well, anyway, I love those women so much.
Yeah,
so
no, it's
Honestly, what Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin have done in their careers,
Oh my God, even recently, like Grace and Frankie, like it's like they've.
how is Jane? I know it's plastic surgery, and she'll admit that she likes to laugh at it, but she is so hot.
Oh yeah,
Still,
and she's like in her 80s.
she's
Also,
85 years old.
also a really actually legitimate and pretty admirable activist throughout her whole life.
100%.
Like will get arrested at climate protests.
Jane Fonda is an American treasure. I should have at last night at the show. I should have included her in my like starting five for that exercise that Matt was having us do. The long story short, basically it was like starting five like historical like U.S. figures or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it was a little convoluted and everyone was kind of drunk, so it didn't end up like really. We didn't follow through on it too much. All right.
John Brown would be on my team.
I selected him.
Let's go.
Right? Good. There we
Great
go.
minds.
Mind meld. Calling from a 425 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is me.
This is you.
Oh, awesome. This is Jeff from Seattle.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Almost down. Anyway, congratulations to the Giants making it to the second round. Screw the Cowboys.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Also, is Mahomes going to be out the next game?
No,
I don't think we know yet, right? There's no
chance he'll not play.
I
Yeah.
would assume if he could play that second half, that even if it's still the same prognosis or whatever, that he will play. But I think the concern for me, obviously, just in terms of his long-term stability, if there's a potential Super Bowl, is that people usually say like a high ankle sprain's like a 6-week recovery.
Oh yeah.
But they don't have 6 weeks, so that's what they're gonna.
Also, isn't it his back right leg, which is the one that he pivots off
Right,
of?
so it's also probably even more painful that he's going to have to, really shuffle with that leg too.
Maybe a little less painful because it's not his plant leg for throwing, but
Yeah, actually that's true. Maybe the plant.
so
would
it
be worse.
honestly might be a better situation. But either way, it's gonna be difficult.
Right, but unless something catastrophic happens, I think he's playing.
Yeah. So Jeff, what's on your mind?
Just wanted to call it and shout out to love of the show. I
Appreciate
do have
it.
to say I got to root for the Eagles against the Niners now, but I'm glad that we get that matchup. And the Cowboys are continue their drought from not seeing the NFC Championship game. They just perfect.
Yeah, these are the right matchups, and that's always a good feeling, right? We're gonna get the best of the best. So, all right,
And
Jeff.
one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I never want to hear anybody say anything about Burrow's small hands and cold again.
Oh, good point.
He like
I don't even
he
know
could
what
have played
to
a
say
better
about
game,
him.
honestly. In that environment, in those
With
stakes.
all of my defense of Josh Allen, and I love Josh Allen. I said this maybe to you off air, Bradley. We kind of had a conversation like, who would you take if you were to start your team now? I'm taking Burrow over Josh Allen. I am. He's just like that special.
And the one thing with that hypothetical too is even beyond, like, I think obviously Allen with his athleticism and what he can do with his feet, the ceiling is high. But I also am thinking in terms of just like, if you're thinking long-term stability, like can my quarterback play for like 12 to 15 years? I just think the way Burrow plays is also more sustainable.
Agreed.
He's
Yeah.
not the tread on his tires will be less than Allen's when their careers are getting towards the end, and I think that sticks in my mind as well, thinking about that hypothetical too.
Appreciate it, Jeff.
Sure, left is best.
Left is best. Okay. Calling from a 972 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Deontay, Dallas, Texas.
Deontay from Dallas, Texas. What's on your mind?
No, I'm just a depressed Cowboys fan,
I got you. I'm
Same
sorry.
shit
And
every.
look, I hate the Cowboys, but last
Oh, I
night
hate
we
the
were.
Giants, so.
Hey, look, we were at the Left Reckoning show last night, and David Griscom was there, who I like. He's my friend, and even that, seeing him upset about it, made me sad. So, I feel you. I'm sorry about that.
Deontay, were you the Cowboys fan
Good.
in the camo Dak jersey who punched his TV and broke it in half on his knee?
It probably might be me.
I saw this video and I was like, this guy was with his family, like standing up watching the end of the game, and he literally like Superman punched the TV and bro. I was like, Mike, it's like, dude, there are kids around.
A little
Like,
much, yeah.
It's like you're gonna have to buy a new TV.
So how are you feeling, Deontay? What's on your mind?
I can't really say what's on my mind right now because
What do you think, what's the outlook for you? What do you think what should the offseason hold for the Cowboys?
shit, I don't know. We have to draft a QB.
Oh, okay.
Probably in third, fourth round.
Okay, so yeah, like mid round guy.
Yeah, I don't trust Dak anymore.
I
think Zeke is a free agent. Let him go. We have a lot of free agents
with that contract.
Yeah, I know. We have a lot of free agents now. I think about it. I think Zach Martin's a free agent too.
Mm-hmm.
Sign him.
Yeah, definitely.
And Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
The injury, if he can recover from it, have him as a full time running back, and yeah, man, Dak ain't shit anymore, man.
I hear you.
I don't know, man.
All right, well, Deontay, appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
Yeah,
right.
Keep your head up, all right?
Yeah, seriously.
I'll try.
Later.
All right, see you.
All right. Calling from a 702 area code. I think I know who this is.
Hey, it's Bro Flamingo from Las Vegas.
Bro Flamingo, how you doing?
Flamingo.
I was at my job and I was watching that Giants game and I was just like, I had to walk out. I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, oh my God. I knew it was over, but it was just so heartbreaking to see it.
Yeah,
to the Eagles.
I honestly, I was like feeling okay, and I was like, damn, I'm sad they got embarrassed. And then at the end of the game, my boyfriend was like, hey, well, we have the draft to look forward to, and I just started crying. I was so, because I'm a crier, and I went, damn, it's really over. Like the season's really over.
And I think that's the tough thing about sometimes like moral victories to a degree is like when you're in it, you still want to win the game. There's no matter what you know intellectually, you want to win.
Exactly.
Right. Wait, before I get into the sports real quick, Emma, I'm going to call in to the majority report tomorrow. I literally had a date with the anti-vaxxer. I was hoping I could.
Oh yeah, definitely call it.
Yeah, save that for tomorrow,
definitely call it.
and we'll make sure that Sam
I will highlight your area.
Yeah.
I literally can't make up. I have all the receipts. I met her off a Hinge and everything. It was like, wow. But okay, let's get to the sports.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I got to say this. Josh Allen and Mahomes and Burrows, that conversation is over. Josh Allen is like second tier or third tier. I was already questioning him, guys, when when Skylar Thompson got you into the dogfight. What?
I think. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, bro. I agree. I think, especially after this game, looking back, I was like, I think we had a right to be concerned after how close the Dolphins game was.
I think he's playing hurt though, Bro Flamingo. I mean, I think that there's a tier of the top three is set, and then I mean, maybe Herbert, you can have a conversation about those guys, but Burrow is in the conversation with Mahomes and Allen.
No, wait. See, this is where I disagree with you, Emma. So, absolutely no. Burrow is absolutely in the conversation with Mahomes.
I hear that.
I was big on Trevor. I was big on Trevor Lawrence this season, and I was vindicated. He beat Herbert, and he played very good. I think with just the listen, who the hell is Christian Kirk? Okay. You know what I'm saying? He did pretty
I agree. Yeah.
And as your number one too, like your number one option is Christian Kirk.
I guess, but he loves like Zay Jones for some reason. But
the Joneses.
Right.
Yeah.
But let me say this though. So to me, it's like Allen's becoming like almost like what's his name? Aaron Rodgers-esque in the sense where you have these great regular seasons, but when it's crunch time, can't rely on him.
Yeah.
Or something is the X factor that's not there. And I'm sorry, 10 to 27, especially against like Burrow, that's essentially a blowout. You essentially got blown out.
Yeah.
All intents and purposes.
But you know how I feel about that, Bro Flamingo? I think Aaron Rodgers, who won the Super Bowl, by the way, but the Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen do not have the team support that those other guys do. That's my opinion, you know. But I hear what you're saying, and
but I think the big difference between Burrow and I think one of the biggest differences between Burrow and Mahomes and Allen specifically, like Burrow and Mahomes on one end and Allen on the other end, is the negative play disparity.
Yes.
Is that Allen, what makes Allen great is also his flaw, which is that he is such a risk taker.
But he has to do that.
Of course, because he doesn't have safe bets in terms of who his options
Wait, but Bradley,
are.
Emma, here's another thing, though. It's funny that you guys brought that up. You know, my cousin, I was talking to my cousin about this. He you know, and he's really forward thinking on this. They should have picked up Christian McCaffrey with that first round pick and stopped playing games.
Oh,
Buffalo.
That would have been so nice.
Oh my God, easily Super Bowl contenders. But you wanted Josh Allen to play Superman? This is what you get.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with you.
I think that's a great
100%.
point.
Or they can take Saquon off our hands. Honestly,
I also wish if OBJ was healthy, I wanted him to go to Buffalo.
I agree.
That was my big thing.
I mean, well, of course I want him on the Giants,
right?
But
if it wasn't the Giants,
of course I would have. He would have been great on Buffalo. Yeah.
Because I think with those two ideas, either OBJ or McCaffrey, is that type of person solves part of the explosiveness problem, and also with McCaffrey specifically, the run game.
And I also will say too, Bro Flamingo, you know, we've been kind of pounding this drum about what the issues are when you have a defensive head coach dealing with a quarterback. Like Herbert and Allen are the two guys that have defensive head coaches that are in this conversation. I think sometimes those guys don't have a great sense of how to manage them or create easy situations for their quarterback, especially now that Dable is gone.
Exactly. Completely 100% agree. Emma, I think there's a there. I'm not, like, I wish I can go deeper into that, but there's definitely a there where I think defensive head coach, we're seeing this with Belichick in real time. Listen, Belichick has all the time in the world, even though I hate to say it, but he's being too cute. He's stuck in his ways. He's missing the boat. Like the Patriots can actually go crazy if they really wanted to, but it's like because he's still defensive minded and he's still entrenched like that. We see this with the Bears a little bit. We see this in a lot of ways in some other teams. They're missing the boat. They're missing the boat on this offensive metagame. Also, want to bring something up, by the way. Seeing the Cowboys eat shit, very nice. As a Giants fan, very nice. But what I will say, and I'll get off the phone after this. What I will say, though, honestly, listen, it's probably not going to happen. They need to move off of Dak, and also, they need to move off of McCarthy too. But you know, McCarthy is a Jerry Jones patsy, so you know he fits right in the system. They're very undisciplined. Lots of penalties all the time. One of the most penalty-ridden teams on the planet. I would argue that they have a Super Bowl caliber defense, but it's like you can't win games,
right?
You know, and I felt like, listen, Dak, the Cowboys and Brady beating up each other as a Giants fan, very nice. I like seeing that. It's a very nice proposition. But
yeah,
listen. Plus, the Bucks +3 on the spread. That was insane. Bucks can't even score. I don't know who put that spread out there.
That was me. I took the bait. Bro Flamingo, and I got screwed.
But Emma, I think it cut both ways. Everybody was hyped off the Dak win. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Dak was great. So Dak was going crazy.
Yeah.
No.
Right, then the same thing happens, right?
Right.
Then they're like, oh, maybe this game will be more competitive, and it's just.
And listen, I gotta give credit. Where credit's due. Cowboys defense held them in there for a very long time because what they're essentially doing is covering for Dak's mistakes, because you know Dak doesn't throw the pick. You know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's coming.
They made it a rock fight, sort of, which they had to. They had to fight him in the trenches.
Right.
Also, but Bradley, I'll say this though. What really blew that game wide open, was that Kittle's catch. That was amazing. Oh,
it was
shit. That blew the game. I was like, oh my god.
One of the most great feats of athleticism.
Oh,
unbelievable.
You know that covered by two guys in a double catch, almost.
And it bounced off his face.
Yes. Yes.
like the amount of hand-eye coordination is just unbelievable.
I'm watching it now. Oh my god.
Just like
Yeah.
And he gets hit after.
right. It's just like the amount of like strength, reflexes, like just like awareness to keep at it until you get it fall on
Unreal.
the ground. It was unreal. It was amazing.
Right. In hindsight is 2020, but you see the momentum after that catch.
Yeah.
Game,
Oh yeah.
Game.
Oh yeah.
And also towards the end too, like the Niners were on Dak like a pack of hyenas. They were stalking that boy like, come here, man. That dude was crazy. It was crazy, but it was a great game, guys. If you want my opinion, I think the Bengals are going to take it all. Bengals are 3-0 against the Chiefs. Mahomes might be hurt.
They have his number until further notice, until that changes, right? Like
I gotta think about it more, but
it's going to be a pick 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a pick 'em.
It is a
as
pick 'em
of
at this
right
point,
now.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, all right,
Also-
Bro Flamingo. Gotta let you go though.
Wait, one thing. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Trevor Lawrence now, top 5 QB, easily.
All right. Look, I don't know if I'd go that far yet, but he is definitely.
I think the
in
ceiling is
top.
there.
The ceiling's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's got a bright future.
He's that dude.
This is basically his rookie year, as we said. The red shirt, the NFL
Yeah,
red
absolutely.
shirt.
Take care, guys. Left is
All
back.
right,
Left is
later,
best.
Bro Flamingo.
Appreciate it.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
And the final call of the day, we're gonna go with a 360 area code. You're the final caller of the day. 360.
Hi, Emma, and Birmingham.
Oh,
Oh,
hear
we
me
can't
okay?
hear you.
oh yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you speak again?
Hi.
Hmm.
Better?
No.
It's still a little. You're
Not so
kinda-
much.
Wait, try again.
Yeah, try again.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Justin from Bremerton.
Justin from Bremerton.
Hey, Justin.
What's on your mind?
Yes, Bremerton, Washington. I had a couple things. Here we go. Mostly, I would want to talk about the time management and playing with the urgency, like at the end of the second quarter of the San Francisco game, how they got the ball back and just wasted so much time. And this has been like a occurrence to a lot of teams, and I think that's been something that's been talked about this season.
Justin, it's a
Thinking
little
about
hard to
wasted.
hear you. So if you could just quickly say your piece, and then we might have to hang up. So because you're just cutting in and out a little bit, but I want to hear like what your thesis is, and then we can respond to it. Maybe you can call in another time.
Okay. I was talking about the time management and
You sound better now.
At
Yeah.
the end of this. Okay, the time management and playing with the urgency and agency of doing something at the end of the second quarter of the San Francisco game, how they wasted a lot of time and what they were doing. And this is a occurrence like in the Seattle games and other games where I don't know. I just feel that they should have a better hurry up. A lot of teams just don't have a good hurry up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're talking about Dallas specifically?
Yeah, the Dallas San Francisco game, especially when the San Francisco got the ball back, and didn't they waste? I'm sure they wasted like 30 seconds, and they
Right.
wanted to. They got the field goal and everything, but they could have done so much more with that time, getting a touchdown or anything. And it was just it's a great defensive game, but so I wanted to take.
I mean, that's on
time
McCarthy,
management.
right? That's a game
Yeah.
management. That's an understanding of like how to instill urgency in your team, what plays to call, right? So,
Right.
yeah, I agree. That's been an issue with him, broadly.
Right. Yeah, but it's a broad issue with a lot of teams that just, I feel there's just not a lot of criticism towards teams that have no agency to get back to the ball, to like they're just dinking around looking. I don't know.
No, I hear you.
And-
I totally
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay.
All right. Well, Justin, really appreciate the
Yeah.
call. Thanks so much, and glad we got your phone sorted
Thanks for
out.
taking my call.
Have a good
Yep.
one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. With that, we are hanging up the phone lines. We're going to read some IMs and wrap up the program. Tom Lofink, happy Monday. Commiserations about the Giants game, Emma. Thank you. If you need an uplifting sports moment, I would recommend watching the clip of Nelson Mandela presenting the Men's Rugby World Cup trophy to then South Africa team captain Francois Pignet in 1995. I will take you up on that. Phil Sims. I don't know why, but every time I listen to PFT, I imagine you listening. I am a daily listener to Pro Football Talk, but I also listen to, pardon my take, sorry. I don't like Barstool broadly, but I love those guys.
No, they're very funny.
They're amazing.
They're like the best export, I would say.
Not really the only thing worth listening to there. And like that's kind of the only reason that company has any respectability, frankly, because that show is widely regarded.
It's a double-edged sword because it's also like
I wish they'd hire one black person, but
it's the best product and also it kind of legitimizes them. That's like the double-edged part of it.
I know. I wish they'd just go independent so I don't have to feel guilty about it. But I listened to Bradley really turned me on to the Athletic Football Show, and I listen to Rich Eisen a lot too. So
I would I would definitely recommend the Athletic Football Show. I talk about them a lot with Robert Mays and Nate Tice, but also Ben Solak on The Ringer is a great follow as well. They do a lot of good coverage. Those two guys, those shows, and that guy Ben.
Majority Report wardrobe coordinator Sirianni has come a long way from his humble beginnings as the kid in Elf. That's amazing. Ray, also thank you for James Bradbury. Yeah, I mean this is like if the
he
Vikings
played so well on Saturday.
If the Vikings game is like the opportunity to give your flowers to Dable and Shane, this game is the Gettleman issue because they wouldn't have been in this position if they didn't have so much dead cap that they had to cut James.
Right,
Bradbury.
they had to cut him just purely to financially.
They did not want to cut him.
Right, to get financially whole. And that's another. On the other hand, too, an enormous feather in Howie Roseman's cap is signing Bradbury for a 1 year, I think like $8 to $10 million contract or something. He was. The bang for their buck the Eagles got for Bradbury being basically an all-pro caliber corner cannot be overstated either.
Absolutely.
Alongside Darius Slay.
Yeah. Ray, the common denominator of the Cowboys' futility is Jerry Jones running the front office. As long as he continues to run the front office, they will continue to have these failures. One can only hope. Antifa Lockhart, hey ESVN, I've got a fancy stat fever. Do you know that 7 of the 8 last Super Bowl winners had to beat the Chicago Bears of Arlington Heights? And one exception is Tom Brady, who knew to throw the game in order to cheat destiny. Anyways, I'm sorry, Emma, but this means the Eagles are going to win and the Niners are frauds.
When will you let me forget about this?
Yes, never again. Never, I guess, is the case. Mind Pillow Guy, what are the similarities between Dallas Cowboys and Sam Cedar? Both peaked in the 90s and have horrible time management skills. I'm going to take a screenshot and text that to him. And the final I am of the day. KC answer. Chiefs Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon are a huge revelation with Travis Kelce. I think Sunday is going to be a great game if Mahomes is healthy. Agreed.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate it all, you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on Thursday for our picks for the conference championship.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.